everybody, it's Safi and Marco dishing out on the movies. But today, at least for this review, we are dishing out on episode 3 of the new Chucky series. The title of it is I Like to Be Hugged. Guess who says that? Well, Chucky, of course. And, well, where do you want to begin? I think both of us really liked it, but I'm not going to say a lot on behalf of Marco because he can speak for himself. But I'll just give you at least the basic pieces of why I liked it. Not detailed, just I thought it was suspenseful, and I thought it was simple and to the point. It gave, this will be a little bit of a spoiler.
Was that a pun, Safi? To the point, like because he uses a knife. God, Safi.
I never even thought about that.
That's so cheap.
It gave. Now I'm not going to say anything about the specifics. Like I said, it gave Chucky's background. Yeah, Marco. If Marco wants to do that, he can. It gave some of Chucky's. Well, a significant part of his background and origin story, which I'm always upset about because it's hardly ever done, and it wasn't a real drawn out thing. It was very simple. That's what I just said. It was simple and to the point, and a lot happened in like 5 minutes that was dangerous and violent, but only a small part of it was significant, relating to what Chucky loves to do. And then there were some other things that I think Marco should talk about.
Okay.
For example, shoes. I won't say whose shoes, I'll just say shoes.
And I know what I'm going to talk about. I don't need...
That's it. So go ahead, Marco.
Okay.
Why don't you start?
Well, since spoiler alert, we're going to be ranking, or I guess not really spoilers, we're going to be ranking the movies and the show all together. So when the show is done in November, we're going to do a video where we rank the movies together with the show. And so I rewatched the first one again last night before watching the episode, and I really think it helped out a lot because, you know, rewatching it and then watching this new show, they really feel like really connected, and they feel like, honestly, like this series is probably the best sequel that's been made to the first Child's Play movie. It's the one where it feels the most connected to it. It feels the most like a proper sequel, because I won't talk much about the original series because, you know, there are some huge gripes that we have to do with the characters, the disappearance of certain characters, and sort of like forgetting that they exist. But rewatching that, there were some things that I noticed, like in the first one when he kills Maggie, the babysitter, when he kills her, you know, he gets his shoe prints in the flour or sugar, whatever it was, and he gets those what they call it, good guy doll shoe prints in the stuff. Well, in this third episode, at one point, this isn't going to spoil anything, he takes off his shoes, and it felt like such a cool sort of, like, it just felt so connected to the first movie, the way that, you know, he's learned now that he should take off his shoes and cover his tracks. And so I thought that was pretty cool, because it seems almost like he wants to help out and make sure that that Jake won't get blamed for anything that he does. Well, of course, what did he do? Well, for starters, this episode, you know, American Horror Story was trash, the season 10, and even seasons 1 and 2, they weren't that great at all. And the reason why I bring that up is because this episode alone is better than every single episode of American Horror Story combined that we've watched. So I think that's pretty funny. Do you agree with that, Safi?
Yes.
Like, because the writing is so much better it feels a lot more organic and a lot more to the point, like Safi said, because it actually, the plot happens. We just don't get these random turns of events where we have these, we have all these plot holes and we have all these unsatisfying things.
Where we're left to trying to figure out what the story is about.
Yeah.
And what's happening.
Well, in this, they actually have stuff happen, and there isn't any question.
And they're connected.
And this was such a well done episode. I loved it. I thought that it was completely enjoyable. These episodes just fly by too. Like 1 minute you're watching it, and then 1 minute it's over. Like they just fly by because they're that good and they're that entertaining. And Chucky, he's obviously at his best. I really like his character in this series. And Jake, we've really bullied Jake ourselves because he's not a very good actor in certain instances. Like he'll just make the same face over and over again. But since he was in less of this episode, I felt like he was able to make more of an impact by not doing as much like overacting type stuff and having those like types of scenes like in the first two episodes where he makes that face over and over again. And in fact, we get more Alexi and her sister once again. And once again, I'll say that they're way better than any of the other kid actors in the show. Like, I could just watch a whole series with them and Chucky and their family, and I would be satisfied.
But it's interesting when you watch the behind the scenes, they have a lot more life to them than they do in the episode. And that is not completely their fault. If they're not given the lines and the actions, then they're only going to do what. But still, they're still very.
They were given lines.
Yeah, I mean a lot of lines. There was a lot of Lexi and the sister doing lines, but they're still very airy. I don't know how to describe it. Very light and airy, and not very impactful.
Well,
very subtle. And
they could become impactful with a good story, like over the course of 10 episodes.
That's right. And Marco just said that, especially with Jake.
Yeah.
Not being in it as much, but that even made it more impactful when he was on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Junior, we didn't talk about. Let's just mention Junior and Devin, the kid. Junior, I think that Junior has a really great potential for a character, but he's kind of like on the sideline, and it feels like he'll play a more important part as the episodes go on, because right now it just feels so focused on Lexi and Devin that you really can't get much of a read on him. He's just kind of like I guess it's by design that he's like this boring, like kind of, I don't know how to describe him. Like he just, he's like a Frankenstein kid where his dad has made him into the person he is instead of him being himself. And so he really doesn't feel like he's being himself at all. He just feels like a wallflower. And then Devin, I really don't get Devin because it's funny because his recording setup is actually better than ours. he has this like really weird like studio room where he has all these detective magazine posters. Like, if you guys don't know, those old school detective magazines were a huge inspiration for serial killers. Serial killers would read those magazines and then they would fantasize about doing stuff because of the crimes described in the magazines. And so he's got those in his room, and of course he's like listening to Jake's voice. Like, he recorded Jake's voice secretly. And so I guess he has a crush on him. I really don't know.
You know what?
It's weird.
He is trying to figure out whether he did the voice to Chucky or Chucky has his own voice. That's what he's doing.
Really?
Yeah, because he's listening to his voice. Yeah, that's what he's doing. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
But also I wondered about the crush thing too.
I don't know.
I don't know either. See, that is another thing. Um, there is a little bit of a gay thing, and I don't.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Safi.
Going on. I mean, since it started,
You're gay.
but it's very low key. It's just part of the story. It fits into it like a puzzle piece.
You didn't need to mention it, Safi.
No, well, you mentioned it by the crush thing, and that's what another thing that makes this series good is that everything has its place and fits into it like a puzzle piece. It's not
Safi,
spilled over it like a cup of coffee.
You're making the
muddling
show
up
sound
everything.
bad now.
No, I'm not. Not at all.
Because if people are so sensitive nowadays because of all the terrible SJW movies and TV shows that once they hear like even the slightest little bit of that type of thing, then they'll assume that this is an SJW Chucky too. Which
Okay,
it's
I don't
not.
know what that means, but I've been listening to Glee music all week, and
I bet you have.
I don't know, because when I do chores, I like to listen to music. And
Do you drink tea too? Do you drink tea while you're listening to Glee?
I don't know. Well, if I'm doing the dishes and cleaning, then I don't know. I don't think I'm drinking anything.
You're having some Earl Gay tea. Oops, I mean Earl Grey.
Marco, don't do that. Anyway, I just wanted to, because so many things like the Fear Street series was so overloaded.
Yeah, if you
with
compare
agendas,
these two,
it
really
muddled.
shows.
It muddled the story. It significantly muddled the story.
And with Fear Street, that's what the whole story was about. Spoiler alert. They made it to where in Fear Street, the whole story started because there was a girl who was a lesbian. And then there was this straight white man. And he didn't like that. And he wanted to be with her. And so all the evil happens because of a lesbian. And how she's a lesbian and she's not allowed to be one. And with that, it really was disgusting. Well,
it just took away from the whole story.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like a scary series.
It was scary, the agendas in it and how many people liked it.
But there's so many things we've watched lately that there's been all kinds of different agendas.
Yeah.
Not just that, and the thing is, there's people of all stripes in the world, and this recognizes that and makes it a part, but not overloading it. And just making it natural. That's the problem.
And it is natural. It's just a part of the story. It's just
That's
a
right.
natural
It's like
part
a puzzle piece or two that fits into the whole puzzle.
In fact, there's really no need to even mention it. It's just the fact that...
Well, we're just wondering. That's all. Because they emphasize it just a little bit. I don't know. And we also, like he said, we were wondering... Why is he doing that with the recording? I think his mother heard it too.
Yeah, she did, and then God. You want to talk about his mom? You want to talk about Devin's mom?
The whole thing with adults trying to is it the science teacher trying to call a meeting, and then who was that? The principal?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. With
the science teacher is a great character.
She's a unique. That's for sure. Well, she called in the parents of both Lexi and Jake.
The thing is, too, Safi, is that she's a lot different than the teachers. And, God, there's so many noises in the background.
That's okay.
I hope they're not audible to the audience because...
I'm sure it'll be okay.
It's not our problem. But the teacher, she's a lot different than the teachers in the past movies. Like, if you remember that evil teacher from Child's Play 2 who Chucky kills... with the ruler.
She was terrible.
She was a bitch. And this science teacher, she's like the opposite. So I really like these touches that feel like it's more connected, because this episode really felt like the first one that reminded me more of Child's Play than Goosebumps.
Yeah.
So. But Devin's mom sucks. And she's like trying to tell her son...
She's the police person.
Who he can hang out with and who he can't. And it's like, fuck off.
Well,
Devin's
it's just
mom.
And he's a good person. He doesn't do anything wrong. He does his work, and I don't know. I just don't... she's afraid of Jake because everywhere he goes, trouble follows.
Yeah, even though he was not at the party and trouble was there, so like, how do you explain that?
The party that occurred for this episode.
Yeah, because there is another party. Oop, I said another party, and this felt like exactly what I wanted to happen in the last party. And Lexi, it sort of just felt like the perfect build up to her dying, because at one point she's singing "Don't Fear the Reaper" to her sister, and that just felt like I was just waiting for her to die, because she sung that song. And it's funny because we mentioned Fear Street, and they played that song in Fear Street Part 2 just casually while the kids were eating lunch in the cafeteria. I mean, the counselors. And in that movie, that song was utilized like such a poor, like, just nonsensical way where it's like, who cares? Like, that song has no relevance or meaning, but then it meant a lot when she sung it to her sister. So I thought that was really cool. And then as soon as Lexi lit up the joint, we knew that she was gonna be in trouble, because you don't smoke weed in horror movies or shows. And as soon as she lit it, I was like, oh, Lexi, you're dead. and and I won't say anything. Well, I will say, it was such a perfect build up for her to die. I was really confused why she didn't die at the end of the episode. And I say that because, it really seemed like she was gonna die. I mean, he was right there. So Junior had to have come in there to save her or something, because that was just fucking retarded. And but after this episode ended, they left it to your imagination. And after it ended, they showed the preview immediately. And immediately, what do you see, Safi?
Lexi at the hospital.
Yeah, you see she's alive. And it's like, why the fuck would I want to see that?
And they're visiting her sister.
Completely deflated that amazing sequence in that episode. And so that really pissed me off, because I give this episode an A+. But that really made me not want to give it an A+, because it was the perfect moment for her to die. Like, I really want that bitch to die. I don't like her. Well, she's evil.
They also showed something else. I don't know if you want me to mention it. Should I mention it?
Yeah, it's
a preview for the next episode.
Well, let's just talk about this episode. Okay. I just want to mention that because
something else surprising happens too, which... What?
Well, we'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
And another thing that happens is Chucky kills Oliver, which I thought that was fun, because I wanted him to die too. I hate these people. These are the exact type of people that Chucky should be killing. Not like these innocent people. He should be killing people like Lexi.
Oh,
because
my God.
He's doing a service to society. Because the reason why people like Lexi exist is because it's a cycle. And it all started with the first one, and when they have a kid, their kid ends up like them. And it's a cycle that just continues on until you end it. And so I was really glad that Chucky was going to kill that bitch. And I was glad that Chucky killed Oliver, too. That really did not... And then it was funny because of the fire. The joint lit the house on fire.
Oh, so it was a joint. I was wondering if it was the joint,
I
if there was a candle.
3 times.
Well,
You thought she was smoking a candle?
No, I thought there was it was a very low light in the room. It was a very dark red room.
Oh,
and I thought maybe there was a candle on. I can't believe that little joint caused all that damage. I mean, but there was a lot of fabric around. I mean, they showed these big fabric curtains, fabric everywhere, and coverlets on the couch or the cushions or whatever, the chairs. And it was just, if there was carpeting, it was like the Red Room or something.
We were very close to seeing the entire cast get killed, except for Jake, because the fire started spreading all over the house, and all these idiot kids, they have these wireless earphones on. these wireless headphones on so that the neighbors don't hear the party music.
Right.
Which I thought that was an interesting touch. I've never seen that before.
No.
It's kind of queer. I mean, I wouldn't go to a party and wear wireless headphones. Honestly, like, no thanks.
Well, also, but they were also like all closing their eyes and dancing around.
Yeah, like zombies.
And the room that was on fire, the pressure, I guess, from the door being closed, or it made it explode. And there's this big, like, whoosh, an explosion where the fire just swooped out of the room and onto the rest of the house. And the little girl's still up there in her room, and all these kids, like Marco said, the whole except for Jake. Jake wasn't there. That's why he wasn't part of because he wasn't there. He was by his father's grave.
Yeah, that was a really cool sequence. That was a cool.
So, I mean, everybody in the whole place was in danger of being killed by a fire.
Yeah.
And then you had Oliver, who Marco's already mentioned, he got killed.
Thank God.
It was a mistake because Chucky thought it was Lexi, I guess. And he got him and goes, oh, well, that's okay. Continues to stab him. And he stabbed him a bunch of times.
It was an opportunity. It was just like, okay, that came up. Kill him too. So it was like a perfect little moment for him. And finally, the last thing I wanted to mention before, I guess, Safi, give it a grade. What would you rate?
Well, I gave it an A because 1, it was suspenseful. 2, it was simple and to the point. 3, it gave Chucky's background, his origin story, at least part of it, which was very significant. Like, why is he a killer? At least when did he do his first kill? There was also a side thing that wasn't in the episode, the behind-the-scenes thing, which was interesting.
Well, you watched the one for the second episode, not for this episode. So.
Right. I didn't even know those existed. A lot happened. And it was but it all made sense and was to the point. And,
it's funny, Safi, because
I think that's it.
With the first episode, you complained that it's too dark. And now that it's, like, gotten, like, just slightly lighter, you're, like, complaining that it's too light.
No, I'm not.
You are.
No, I'm not. I just
noticed that.
No, I'm not. I just think
mention it?
Because the actors don't seem to have much meat in what they say.
So it's not really light. It's more like they're flat characters.
Well, maybe that's what
they're underdeveloped.
So maybe I should I'm not explaining it properly, but the two sisters have a lot of character. A lot. And Chucky, of course. He has a lot too. And so I like that too. Even though maybe the other characters will be developed, or it seemed like Jake, like you said, because he wasn't on as much. He went to visit his father's grave. He was debating whether he should kill anybody because he's not really a killer. There was a thing with the African American boy and what was he doing.
Safi.
I mean, there was all kinds of different.
His name is
Devin. And he
Safi.
reminds me of the boy on
Wishbone
a lot.
Oh, okay.
It's almost like his brother about 10 years ago. So, I mean, it had surprises, too. I always love it when a show has surprises. And they fit in just right, and it's fun. It's fun that way.
Well, what surprised me is that they showed his backstory, and they showed that there was a burglar or a killer or something, a serial killer, and he killed Chucky's father. And Chucky saw it, and then his mom hid him in the closet, and then he ended up killing her. And it basically was like, I guess he wanted to imitate the killer, but that was a very shocking moment too. And it was kind of perfect because it really showed that Chucky, he's a killer. He's a natural born killer.
Yeah, like he's already that way.
Yeah, and it was just like he was just waiting to snap. and he finally saw the perfect opportunity. So I thought that was pretty cool, and that was probably one of the highlights of the episode too. So I would say that this might be the best episode so far.
Yep.
I would have easily said it, but I didn't like the thing where they showed the preview and we see that she survived, because that really deflated this episode. Like, that was the perfect build-up. The whole episode, you're just waiting for that bitch to get killed, and then when she doesn't get killed, like, so when is she gonna get killed?
I mean, she was in a room full of fire. I thought he had stabbed her.
He had his knife. He picked it up.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a surprise to see her in that preview.
Yeah.
So that is a big surprise. So, anyway, but that isn't what I was talking about. But
I guess you could say it's a little good that she didn't get killed, though, because one thing that I didn't mention was that Jake built a new statue, and he literally built a statue of Lexi. And he's stabbing the statue to let out his stress, and once again it echoes how I said that those statues look like something a serial killer would make, because he's planning.
Like Hannibal.
Yeah, because he's planning on killing her, and he makes a statue of her to practice, and it's like, that's not good. If she dies and they find that statue, they're gonna say, Jake, you did it. We knew all along. We wanted you to be the suspect, and so you are the suspect because you're gay. I mean, they're really mean to Jake, and they really hate Jake.
I don't know about they hate him, but they do. They just take everything out on him, and I just like, these are adults.
They treat everything like it's his fault.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't understand it.
Which that does echo the first movie, where as soon as the first person got killed in the first movie, they immediately wanted to blame it on Andy. Immediately. And it was like, fuck off. Like, seriously? Like, you need to do a proper investigation and not be so biased. Like, you're some trash investigators. And so, what should people do, Safi?
Well, I hope you like this review and that you subscribe. We love and welcome new subscribers. And Marco's got this in my face. And
so the sound is better.
Oh.
So it sounds like Devin's podcast,
Oh, yeah, right.
His special recording studio with the recording stuff.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, take it away a little bit. Okay, but anyway, and if you have comments about this episode, or you disagree, or you agree with what we say, go ahead. Be my guest. We welcome those kinds of comments. We welcome all comments. Okay? So,
goodbye, everybody.
Bye.